Can you quickly explain to the audience what social desirability bias
Ah,
is and how that affects
mhm.
politicians and maybe how it affects me and you?
Social desirability bias is the most underrated idea in all of psychology. It's a very fancy phrase for a very simple idea. The idea is this: when the truth sounds bad, people lie. Often the lies become so ubiquitous that you stop even thinking of it as lies, and it's just saying what everybody says. It goes back to things as simple as, am I fat? Well, maybe I am, maybe I'm not, but there's only one socially acceptable answer to, am I fat? Oh, Brian, you look great. Oh, you're beautiful just the way you are. Don't change a thing. You can see this in lots of different areas of life. You can see this in things like voter participation. When you compare actual data on voter participation to asking people, did you vote? More people say they voted than did vote. You can see this for church attendance. More people say they went to church than actually did go to church. You can see this for things like, um, are you ready to die for your country? I actually did a piece where we have this stereotype that after the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, that every able-bodied man in America got in a line to volunteer for the military. I actually did crunch the numbers on that. It was just a few percent of all eligible American men that volunteered to fight in the period, and most of them that did fight just got drafted. Like, there was not actually a great desire among men to volunteer to get to the trenches to get revenge on the Japanese, at least not if it was their own necks that were going to be
Yeah.
on line. Or there's one other one. This one is ugly, but in a way it's so ugly it just drives the truth home. If you ask people hypothetically, would you abort a Down syndrome baby? Then only about a third of people say they would. But we have data on what really happens when people do have a Down syndrome pregnancy, and guess what? It's about 90%. Yeah, I mean, I think there is really just this, great disgust for markets purely not based upon anything they do, based rather upon that just doesn't sound good. It's some rich people making money, selling products. They don't care about the common good. All they want to do is run their businesses, sell stuff to people. Like, and if it seems like, what's so bad about that? If you're in business, you might have gotten used to it. But these are not recent ideas, and they're not unique to any culture. You can just read like medieval writers in the church talking about the horrible, miserable jerks that merchants were. And the whole time it's like, if you want to see the really horrible people, how about the people living in the castle where up on the mountain where they're squeezing the peasants dry so they can live in luxury? But no, those people are okay. The people that we really hate are the merchants that are going and selling cinnamon to people. They're actually the worst people in the world, not the mass murderers living up at the castle. I mean, really
Right.
striking to me is how Jeff Bezos is much more widely hated by the Western left than the Saudi monarchy. It's like,
Right.
obviously, like by what possible measure is Bezos not a better human being than MBS king or like acting king of Saudi Arabia? And they may say, well, like we can do something about Bezos, we can't do anything about the Saudi monarch. It's like, that's not why. It's you don't like him because he got incredibly rich selling people stuff they like, whereas the Saudi monarchy, they just inherited it, and that bothers you less, even when they are the tyrannical rulers of a whole country rather than the innovative CEO of the greatest store that ever existed. Well, you asked me about social desirability bias. That's my big story. When I mean, like this is like a general rule of life. If there's somebody that you already don't like and something goes wrong, then it's like, hey, that person's terrible. There's somebody that you do like who makes a mistake, then it's like, well, you have to understand that they were coping with a really tough situation. So markets do not sound good to people. People do not like the sound of rich people doing things and being successful. They don't like the sound of business doing things and being successful. So when a system based upon people who are rich and businesses going and producing things has any problem at all, people are very quick to say, aha, this is terrible, just as I thought. I mean, again, often the problem is not even defined as anything other than the motivations. Just think about all the protesters with signs saying greed on them. Greed. And it's like, well, like, yeah, like, what do you think people running businesses are doing it for? They're doing it to make money. You're using the negative term there, but like, how does that show anything? Like, it shows enough. It shows that they are despicable, as Daffy Duck would say. On the other hand, for government, people have a very different view of it. no matter how badly it actually does, it's us. It's our, these are our leaders. These are elected by the people. Even if it happens to be temporarily in the wrong hands, still it is the embodiment of our nationhood. And so people are just very forgiving of government. Frederick Bastiat, the 19th century French economist, he is the story that a lot of my friends like, which is, well, people don't like markets because so many of the benefits of markets are unseen. So many of the costs of government are unseen. And here I say, well, this is true for almost everything complicated, but still in the case of markets, people don't give markets the benefit of the doubt. If you just say, hey, well, there's a lot of complicated stuff going on. So, oh, well, in that case, no. But on the other hand, in the case of government, if you say, well, it's really complicated, it's like, well, yeah, I can only imagine how complicated it is. And so when you think about when government fights a war, it seems to be a total disaster, but they say, well, you have no idea how bad it would have been if we hadn't fought the war. We saved, like the result that you see that you think is bad, that's fantastic compared to what could have happened. And people will believe that crap. Right? Whereas if you see markets doing something and it seems like it's not even ideal, to say, well, look, they're doing the best they could in a tough situation. This, oh, sure they are. You, as your apologist for those greedy jerks. Yeah,